Hi, my name is Dave, and this is Work in VR. Now, I am a software developer, and I do all my work full time, all day, every day in virtual reality using software called Immersed. Now, Immersed has some amazing features, but probably my favorite feature is the ability to co work with other people, no matter where they are in the real world. So, a group of us who regularly co work together formed a podcast that we call VR 9 to 5. And on this podcast, we talk about what it's like to work in VR. There's some pros, there's some cons. A lot of times the software has some bugs. So, we just released our second episode where we talk about those things. The second episode is called The Good, the Bad, and the Beta. So there's a link to the full episode in the description below, but here are some highlights from that conversation.
So what we wanted to do today in this episode is talk to you really about why. Why do we do this every day? Why do we put on a headset that, frankly, not as comfortable as a real world? Why do we look at screens that maybe aren't perfectly clear? What is it about working in virtual reality that we really like?
No problem. Hey, Jeff. Hi, everybody. Sorry about my spider hands, but you can tell that this is the beta part. So the good, the bad, and the beta. Here you have beta. So Focusverse is, it's simply a way for a group of us to come together and concentrate on getting our work done. The way that we do it is using the Pomodoro method, which means we put 25 minutes on a timer. We set intentions as to what we're going to get accomplished, and we keep each other accountable. 25 minutes, 5-minute break. We do it 4 times. Ideally, you do it 4 times, and we also do it live on LinkedIn. We really just up the accountability, making sure that if we're sitting together and working together, we're going to get as much done as possible. And so Immersed has been actually the perfect place for that because we all have our extremely comfortable setup with our screens. However, I also work to bridge the VR world with the non-VR world by offering it on Zoom. And so we do that once every 2 weeks. I'm hoping to get it started a bit more often, but once every 2 weeks for now. And it's been amazing. I've gotten really great feedback. I don't think I've talked to anybody who said that they didn't get a lot out of it. So
With focus group, it was like, okay, I've got one scene or maybe 2 short scenes, and what's missing, what's broken, and bada bang, bada boom, bada bang, bada boom, bada bang, bada boom. And I was able to get through a 70,000 word manuscript doing that in just a couple of days.
That's amazing.
And I found it to be very helpful. And like you said, Jeff, it's the accountability. It's the I need to lean in. I'm not going to be getting up from my desk except for those short 5 minutes, right? And it's the same but very different from the writing sprints.
How much of that book would you say that you actually have written from within the headset?
It was more than half.
So with my coaching, I coach neurodiverse leaders basically to work with themselves and use their creativity, focus it back at their productivity. And because like you're so brilliant, come up with so many ideas, but why am I always stressed out? Or why can't I overcome this? Or why am I not making more money? That kind of thing. It's turn that around and look at your situation with your brain and outsourcing the accountability, as someone was talking about earlier. Like I have to do well for my coach or for Jeff.
wow,
So
that is
and
some
then
restraint.
facial expressions. Some like I can see Jeff go to markets, facial expressions, smile for us. Yeah. Okay, I'm doing the same expression. I'm doing the same expression. Can you see it?
No one can see it.
No,
Too much
because I don't
Botox.
have face.
Really good. You can even do eyebrow shifts.
Oh my, I
That's right.
can't
Yeah.
wait.
You
So
can
the new
wink.
headset will make me have less Botox.
There is definitely a bad that goes along with the good. Now, we're all here because I think we universally think the good outweighs the bad, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But VR right now is in its infancy. So this technology, you get spidery hands, you get weird avatars freeze and whatever, because it's brand new technology that's evolving crazy fast. Right now, you should expect friction. There is friction. You have to be prepared to be frustrated by certain things when you start in VR. So just, truth be told, there are quirks, there are funny things that happen. So I would encourage anybody out there who's watching this, who's intrigued by this and wants to try VR technology, just expect there to be a little bit of a learning curve. And you have to be okay with that. If you're not okay with that, just don't even try. Well, when you're working that hard and you're moving that fast and you're pushing code over and over and over again, new features, you're gonna when you're at that level, you just expect there's going to be bugs. There's going to be tweaks. So you have to have the right mindset, and that is to just be understanding and forgiving of that, because the bugs crop up fast and they fix them fast. So it's just something to be aware of, that when you try this software, it moves fast, and then and that's exciting. So I'm talking about all this bad stuff and all this friction. Why put yourself through that is the question, right? Well, the answer is, it's amazing. It is absolutely unreal to work in here. I can have up to 5 screens. They can be as large as IMAX movie theater screens. They're super easy to resize. You have these social interactions. You can work in multiple fantastical environments. You can get extreme focus where you don't have any visual or audio distractions. The list goes on and on. So the benefits are worth it. But when you start working in VR, expect to put in the effort to really figure it out.
Yeah, actually, I'm an early adapter. Like, I'm a technology early adapter. I love technology and using as a tool to enhance my productivity and solving a real world problem. So, of course, we all love remote work. I'm a big believer of remote working. So, when actually this technology come up, like 3 years ago, I started to get a headset like Quest One. I got a headset for all my core team, and we transferred the work into full remote, and we like use it every day. And the presence and the interaction, that nothing matched that. So we saved a lot of transportation and commuting every day to work. We shrinked our office into a smaller one. So then we started to work in this environment. Also the collaboration. So that actually make a lot of sense, saving a lot of time and giving us a focus. Like, our brain in the VR is like 4x, like 5x. So we get rid of all the distraction of the real life or real world distraction. It paid off in our productivity. Like, it validated when we did the work in 3 months was 3 years in the real life. So also we started to invite like our customers and our partners to join us in this environment, and they got impressed, and they got like a sense of we are in ahead of technology. So we got credibility and trust for our customers and partners.
I think we tend to think of technology like this as especially expensive, but I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and I said, he was like, I can't imagine spending $1,000 on a headset. And I'm sitting there at his house, and I looked, I'm like, you have 3 monitors. I bet they cost you more than $1,000 for all 3 of these wide monitors that you have. As you mentioned, you were able to downsize an office. It's interesting to think about when you're willing to try something a little bit different. The cost part of it isn't. It's really not the barrier if you're able to understand what it can do for you. So for you mentioned it can bring your teams together. You can make you guys more productive, able to help you downsize in an office.
Like this week, we're rolling out some VR headsets for some of our surveying team that do high definition 3D LiDAR scans of railways and railway tunnels and bridges and things like that. And so as of this week, the teams will start reviewing some of those scans in 3D or in VR, being able to start looking at the wireframes that get generated from that and being able to start manipulating it. So doing some of the same work that Haney's team's doing, just on a larger scale. And so I see it as a game changer. And the cool thing is, I got into it not looking at it as a technology for the company. I was looking at it because I suddenly, after 30 years of working in busy, fast-paced offices, beginning to deal with people face to face, and both the good and the bad of that, and then suddenly I spent 2 years at home working remotely, and suddenly found that I was missing people. Well, that's now turned into developing friendships, developing new co-working skills, being able to finally be able to master Pomodoros that I had been trying for years and just failed at. But now suddenly, with the accountability of people all the way around the world, I'm succeeding at that, and it's been fantastic. Well, now that VR has become such a important part of my life, suddenly I'm starting to see its application in our offices, in our teams. And so we'll be using it to bridge the gap between some of our offices on different parts of California. And so people can get together, do the collaboration together in the same space, yet be 600 miles apart. So I'm really looking forward to it as a game changer.
I've been a champion on this technology where I show up on a lot of meetings with my avatar. As a matter of fact, my Calendly link that I use for people to use to book appointments with me has an option for people to choose if they want to meet me in VR here or if they want me to show up as an avatar in our first call. And I've had a couple of takers there that have chosen that option to have our first interaction here in VR. I do feel that because I'm able to talk about it often, it's a good conversation starter. You know, when I show up as an avatar and they don't know, they're like, "Oh my goodness, like how are you doing that?" The question that I get the most is like, "How are you doing it, and how can I get it?" and
Right.
and I also think about it because I'm in human resources of the inclusion aspect of it. You know, a lot of teams travel to get together for offsites, you know, but there are some individuals that perhaps have some disabilities, and those disabilities can vary from physical disabilities to mental disabilities. And the ability to make a safe space for people that travel is a chore, you know, this could be a great medium where like they still feel inclusive because they're talking to their teammates here and they're sharing the same space and they don't have to worry about like traveling and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's a really
Nice.
interesting point, Miguel, because one of the regulars, the guy that Jeff mentioned earlier, he is one of the most outgoing people that I know because I met him in here and interact with him here in VR. Well, it turns out he's got a lot of social anxiety, and he really is a totally different person in the real world, and we didn't know that, and he shared that with us, and we were all very surprised, and because he's so outgoing, but he shared with us that in real life he's the quiet guy in the corner and doesn't say anything, and you know and in here he's the class clown, and it's just really it's really interesting how VR has sort of allowed him to escape that anxiety and sort of become more of an outgoing person in this medium.
The biggest differential from being here in VR than having a Zoom meeting or Google Meet is that it feels to the brain that you're sharing the same space. You know, I have to turn around to look at you. You know, I have to turn around to look at everyone here. And when somebody talks, you see everyone's avatar turn around at you. You know, um, yeah. And when you're having a Google Meet or a Zoom call, there is this feeling of a barrier of the screen that you can't go beyond the screen. You can't have that interactions. Where here it feels like, hey, I can see your screens are down, my screens are down, and we're fully engaged having a conversation.
Totally.
You know how it's funny how the VR live bleeds into our real life. Today, I was talking to my wife, and then unconsciously, I just looked at my hand, expecting to see a menu. But I'm like, okay.
Well, I hope you weren't going for the do not disturb button.
Exactly. How do I report my wife? Report.
report.
There are some feature questions for silent
Reveal
spouse
hand.
button, but haven't seen it come up yet.
That's funny.
Oh my goodness.
So there you have it. That was a taste of our episode 2 of VR 9 to 5, the good, the bad, and the beta. If that piqued your interest and you'd like to hear more, go ahead and click the link in the description below to listen to the full episode. In the meantime, I pray that God blesses you with an awesome day. Thanks for watching.